they're taking an English course, and something happens where they have to stop. Maybe it's a health issue, something comes up and they stop. We're able to award them through a semester like a 0.2 thirds of a credit or something like that, depending on the timeline that they've gotten through that point of the semester. So instead of making them go back and take the whole thing over again, they can come back and take a chunk of that through the ALE program and knock that part out and then continue on and keep moving. So it allows us that flexibility to really get in with what they need.
That's huge.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
It makes so much sense too. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's really wonderful. So, okay. Any other questions?
Any questions, comments?
Okay.
Thank you, Justin.
Good job. Thank you.
Great
Thanks.
program.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you.
Our next report is from Dr. Kramer on summer school. What?
I told you I wasn't done yet.
Oh, you're
Okay,
right.
this is just 2 quick slides, one being the title. And thanks to Justin, I have high school data in here as well. So this year, as I had shared with you, when we started to roll out summer school, we knew we were going to have lower attendance. We knew we were struggling to get staff for a lot of different reasons. But at elementary, we offered it for incoming 3rd and 4th graders. We're required to provide the summer school or an extended year program for students that are current 3rd graders going into 4th grade if they haven't met the standard in reading. And so we had 32 students participate with 2 teachers, 2 paras in a 4-week session. And the focus was in English language arts because we know we can't teach reading without teaching writing. The 2 of them have to go together. At middle school, we had students in grades 6 and 7 that were in ELA. We only had 7 students participate. Again, just tired. We've been in the pandemic, but they were very enthusiastic. At least when I saw them, they were very enthusiastic learners. I think the part that I was the most excited about was the 5th to 6th grade transition. We offered multiple sessions, and I knew we had quite a few because I was somehow on the email string when people were registering. We had 107 students participate, and so that was I felt that was over 50% of our 6th grade class. I felt great about that. At high school, we had 22 students that participated. They got credit in ELA, math, science, and social studies. We had 13.5 credits attempted. 9 credits were complete, and so 4.5 are incomplete. Some of them will be wrapped up, like somebody has a final to take. Some of that counts kiddos that never started, in spite of all of the connections that went on. And Justin said to me today, and I'm going to confirm it right here, that it went so well that the high school will continue to just run their own program. Middle school and elementary, we had a district summer school coordinator, Cheyenne Weber, did that. At high school, they really ran the program, and it seems to make the most sense because it's the folks who know the kids, who can engage with them. We set up I thought a pretty flexible way for staff to supervise kids and provide students with support when they came into school. So I think it worked really well here. And that's my summer school report. But again, some of those 9 credits, those are kids that get to graduation. Some of those kids will get to graduation as a result.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Any questions for Roberta? Okay, thank you. Next, it's still you.
I know.
It's the equity update.
So I want to talk to you about collaborative time, and I think it was so awesome that we had the real people here talking about it, in Sarah and Sandra and Jim as well. Justin experienced it. What we've set up this year is we have our teams have opportunity for collaboration on Monday mornings, and then we meet as a district guiding coalition on Tuesday morning. And that's where all of our school leaders, principals, and assistant principals, as well as our teachers on special assignment, we all come together. We're 20 large, so that's pretty big for us. And so we've expanded the number. And so we really were able to debrief how we thought it went, what we thought we might need to do a little bit different next time. But far and away, and it was my experience as well, when I was out I went to one school, because there's no way I can go to more than one in 45 minutes, but every team was focused on task. We had developed an agenda to help provide some structure, and we felt like that was really well received, because we were changing our expectation from when we used to meet once a month. So we needed to provide more structure, and I think that the teams and the team leaders appreciated that. We saw such high levels of engagement and on the agenda, and some of the groups had already brought data, which was really exciting. And there was no expectation around that. We had one of the things that someone had mentioned was that we were tight on our expectations. Everyone was going to be on a team. They were going to meet for 45 minutes. That, we wanted full participation. We were going to follow this agenda, and people rose to that. It was just so exciting, and there is a level of excitement around it. We haven't just said, yeah, we're gonna create a culture of a PLC in the Pullman School District. We're providing supports along the way. We brought in 2 very well-known speakers to help us with that work. And there's been follow through, not just like throwing folks into it. The team leader, Justin talked about a situation where there was a team leader that was out. And you know what? People figured out how to do it, and they collaborated and they made it happen. And what a great example! They were still, someone else could step into that role, and they knew it was important. That one of the things we noticed on the forms that were filled out, because there's an agenda, and then it helps to build the note taker, then helps to build the next agenda. And believe me, I have no idea how all this happens, but it does, and then it just gets automatically populated into the next one. And it just makes it so doable. When they left, somebody wasn't assigned to write them the notes because they were already embedded. And that's huge. That's a huge systematic shift for us. We've never been that efficient. And efficiency certainly helps folks to participate, because you don't want to be bogged down by the process. And so I think lots of questions around our common formative assessments and our next steps. And we know that those are all coming, and we're just trying to, we got to pump the brakes a little bit, because not everybody's all at the same place, and not that we'll wait for everybody to get right at the same place, but we're just making some adjustments. Like Sarah said, they had reviewed their essential standards, and so that's critical. That's exactly what we're supposed to do during that time. So very excited about where we started, and we had a great conversation with our leadership team, and just the energy in the room. It happened, and we have you to thank for helping that to happen. So thank you so much. This is how we create equity, is when we're really talking about teaching and learning and knowing about our kids and their learning. So thank you for that.
Anybody have any questions, comments? Allison, sorry. You can always count on us.
So Sarah mentioned that her team is a small team, it's 2, but fortunately they also had somebody doing a practicum or something like that. When it's just 2 people, is that enough of a team dynamic, or do you kind of need?
One of the teams that I observed at Franklin is a 2-person team, and it was incredibly dynamic.
Okay.
Yeah. And they exchanged ideas, and they actually wanted to get into some data too. So,
okay.
I think sometimes when it gets real big is maybe where some of the challenge is, but it seems to work well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's pretty exciting.
I have a question, and it might be too early to answer this at this point, but I'm curious how it's looking so far with, a teacher changing schools or grades, or a new teacher coming in and trying to review last year's data. Are they really it's hard because it's not necessarily their data. Are they still able to address, you know, the shortcomings and where they need to work on things, and are they able to kind of step in and own? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so what our
it's a little bit of a
preference-
different
right.
situation.
Our preference always is that we're using real-time data.
Okay.
So some of the, like the big assessments, the Smarter Balanced Assessment, that's, you know, big summative assessment. We're really focusing on those common formative assessments that tell us about how kids are learning along the way. And so that's more of where we focus our time. You need to use some of that information,
To start.
especially at the beginning of
Yeah.
the year, because you know, and one of the things I always suggest to teams is, oh no, we have a lot of data, we know a lot of things about our kids, we just have to maybe go back and take a look at what that was, and sometimes use some of that to confirm or disconfirm what it is that you're already observing, because we know teachers begin to collect data about their kids from the second they meet them. And so that's kind of how we've managed that. But we haven't, I noticed no hiccups. In fact, the one team that with 2 team members, one is brand new to the district. And it was like like the 2 of them had always worked together.
That's great. So the real-time assessments, is that just like a quiz or
It might
a
be.
worksheet or?
When we talk about common formative assessment, that's you know, maybe it's 2 to 3 questions about an essential, a component of, or the entire essential standard. And so, and you want to do one of those about every 5 days. Because you've got to make your adjustment. And so they say about 5 days. That's why we planned that. We've had folks doing unit planning around the 15-day challenge, because we think that that's about 3 of those quick. And then it's those, however long the assessment is, those are the things then that folks will bring and share the data on, because that's all common. They've taught the same standard, maybe not in exactly the same way, which is totally fine, but it's that we've unpacked that standard, we've taught it, and then we bring the data to say, oh gosh, looks like, you know, your kids seem to get that, mine didn't. What happened instructionally? And then that's where they go into that deep level of understanding.
Thank you.
So is it a software program that keeps track, that rebuilds the agenda for the next?
Yeah, somehow.
Okay, all right, sorry.
I'm just trying to just go with it. It
Well, no,
happens.
but that's just awesome that it's all done for you, because that's the worst part, is taking notes and trying to come up with the agenda, so.
One more question, sorry, and this might be something to follow up at another time, because I don't know that I've heard anything about this before, but like Sandra was mentioning that she works with the paras to then implement the interventions. But on the late starts, I'm assuming the paras are supervising the kids. Do they also collaborate, or how does that part of it work? And this might be a huge topic, that's a different.
It is a pretty large topic.
Okay.
What we did in the past, the one thing we did take advantage of in past was when we had those monthly, we just didn't have them see kids on those mornings, and so then we got to do all the professional development
Yes.
we wanted, and it was great. Now we've got to carve out different time for that.
Okay.
And we still can make room in Core Plus for that. In special education we can't because of the required number of minutes. So we'll be able to do that in Core Plus, but it's going to be an ongoing conversation. And while they might not start supervising because kids come a half an hour later, we did have a few early birds this time, but it was like, no, that part went so smoothly.
That's wonderful.
That whole, the communication with families and things must have been so smooth, because it was just, it really, we didn't have huge numbers like we could have. I think in high school, we did talk about that kids went to class. They came and they went to class.
Eager to learn.
They're just not awake yet.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so we'll continue to work that out, but we've got to work to make sure that they have time to meet and to talk about practice. And many of them are supporting in the classroom during the midst of the lesson, which gives them great modeling and support
sure.
too.
Yeah.
But yes, that's something we'll continue to work with.
Thank you, Roberta. Thanks. Any other questions? Well, I think this is working out well, so that's exciting. All right, we now have on our agenda the public comment section. This is this section of the agenda is for anyone wishing to speak before the board, either as an individual or as a member of a group. Those who would like to provide public comment must sign on the public comment sign-in sheet. Individuals addressing the board will go to the microphone and state their name and address prior to presenting their comments. Individuals will be called to speak in the order in which they signed up. The board will listen and may offer clarification but will not discuss the topic at this time. The board may consider moving the topic presented to a future meeting date as a discussion item. We ask that you please keep your comments civil and respectful and limit your remarks to 3 minutes. Individual speakers may not give their time to other speakers. And I don't think we have anybody signed up this evening, so we'll move on to our next item on the agenda, which is the consent agenda. And to expedite business at a board meeting, the board approves the use of a consent agenda, which includes items considered to be routine in nature. Any item which appears on the consent agenda may be removed from the consent agenda by a member of the board and voted on separately. The remaining items will be voted on by a single motion. Our tonight consent agenda includes minutes of previous meetings, personnel report, student transfers report, uncollected non-tax revenue report, warrants, ASB fundraisers, out-of-state travel requests, record destruction logs, personal and professional services contract report, and donation received. Is anybody wanting to remove any items from the consent agenda? All right, then I will entertain
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we do approve the consent agenda as provided this evening. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And that was unanimous aye, so we'll move on to action items. Action items have been previously discussed by the board. The board will now take action by motion. The first action item this evening is 4218. It's a policy of language access.
So I shared this with you at the last board meeting. Courtney, can you? For some reason I'm struggling to see. Thank you. Even with my glasses on, I think my eyes are tired. As I had said the last time, this was an update as a result of the passage of House Bill 1153. Many of the structures that are included we have implemented for a long period of time. Full implementation isn't expected until the 23-24 school year. I know that there was one question or comment from the community that I did review, and we have at all times provided access to translation and interpretation for any family that we offer. We are very, we appropriately offer and ensure that they know that they have the right, and if they get started into a conversation and they say, well, you're totally fine, we stop it and we provide them with whatever it is that they need.
Thank you. So do you have any questions, Roberta, on policy 4218, language access?
So just to clarify, if it's offered, somebody might not choose to use it.
Yes, sometimes.
But that's their choice.
But we have the obligation to offer it.
Okay.
Okay, is that it? Okay, then I would entertain a motion to approve policy 4218, language access.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we do approve the changes of policy 4218, language access. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor for approving this policy, please say aye.
Aye.
And that was a unanimous vote, so that's it. So now we get to move on to discussion items. Discussion items are items presented to the board for discussion. If they need action, they will be brought back to the next meeting. And the first area of discussion is 22-23 Board Professional Development Plan. And Dr. Kramer, it's you again.
Thank you, Courtney, for enlarging that font. Then I did find that you already had those in my folder. Okay. So the board establishes professional development goals for the school year, and attached is the professional development plan for this year as determined by you. The content is subject to change. However, one of the things we talked about were the recorded sessions from the PLC and Solution Trees work, and there will be Courtney reached out and found out that there would be about a 1 to 2 week turnaround on the recordings, and right now it meets, the schedule would meet that, so that wouldn't be a problem to be able to do that. And like I told Courtney, if they're not able to, we can put it together, and so we'll be fine.
Thank you. We discussed this at our work session. Yeah, did anybody have any suggestions, ideas, changes, concerns, comments?
So I think that it looks really great. I'm noticing that I'm writing all over it because things are popping up that aren't necessarily part of the plan, like Franklin presenting to us last week, Jefferson presenting to us today, and it all has to do with this plan. And so it might be nice to have some spaces where we can make notes as things pop up so that we can keep all of our information together.
Then it won't fit on one page.
Well, maybe I'll just,
Allison does me too. It's okay.
maybe not.
Poor Courtney, it'll be a challenge for her, but I bet she can come up with something.
I just would like to be able to have everything in one place as, somebody talks about what they're doing that has to do with our plan. It would be nice to have a place to write down.
That's a good point.
Maybe it's a small folder.
I want Courtney to make a custom plan for each individual board member.
Otherwise, I think it looks great.
Mine would be in a larger font if you
7 pages.
Yeah, that would be me, yeah. So, no, it's nice to see it all every year, and we go through all these things, and we kind of do a lot of this stuff every year, but it's nice to see it formalized into one sheet, maybe potentially 2 sheets, so it is great. All right, so any other comments or questions on this one?
I guess to add on to what Amanda's saying, I still think we could approve this version of the plan.
For sure. The plan looks great.
Yeah, at our next meeting. And then what we might be able to do is create like a note-taking version of the plan or something like that that would allow people.
We need the program from the PLC team that takes the notes for us. Thank you very much. I know, sort of, kind of.
Because we won't know every school's presentation ahead of time or something like that, so we might have to go back and.
Well, because when they do their showcases, they're welcome to present on anything they want to.
Absolutely.
We've just happened to have 2 PLC reports in the last 2 weeks, which has been, because everyone's really excited about this new work, so.
Yeah.
What we might do, or it's up to you guys.
Please, yes.
But what we might do is have a second page that has the work session dates listed, and if there's a showcase on those, who's the showcase that has like space for you to write for all this, so we could have like kind of the work sessions kind of separately on the back side of the plan.
Because then it's still one paper.
That's
But then that way we could, if they don't present on a topic that might fit in here, then it would just be blank, but at least it would give you those dates, when it happened, what they talked about, and who was the school. So we could put it more organized on the back side with some space. I'm sure I could create space on the front side too.
Not and keep the font big enough for Susan.
Yeah, I still think we can move forward
But
to
the plan
adopt
looks great.
this
Yes,
at our next
absolutely.
meeting, but yeah, we just might tweak with format over time.
I think it looks great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on this? Are we ready to move on to the next one, which is,
Well, I wanted to thank Allison for recommending that we bring this forward and formalize it at a school board meeting. I mean, we go to workshops throughout the year, but we never formalize it. Now
That's
we
true.
have, now we will.
Now we know.
Well, I
No
think it's good for the
excuses.
public to know that we do other things besides school board meetings.
Oh, we do.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's
Thank
part
you.
of our continuing education.
Thank you, Jim. No, I'm excited about participating more and more in the PLC learning and training that we are going to be going through too, so, and are going through. There we go. All right, next on discussion items is item B, dedicated teacher team nomination form. And the presenter is the Pullman School District Board of Directors. Nathan Roberts and Allison Munch-Rotolo were the ones that took the lead on this one.
No, thank you, Susan. Actually Courtney made the changes that we requested last time, which was to split it into even and odd, and Jim, you had made a comment about adding the principal or designee. Honestly, does anyone have any further comments or discussions? I know, and Courtney, this is kind of for you, but I know Allison sent some last minute comments, and it looks like they're done. Are they? Okay, good.
Yeah.
And we
Okay.
added the, on the back page, this question, that will be a required question before they submit their essay, was one of Allison's suggestions.
And I like how you put it, my ear would prefer. I think it's a really great way to suggest an edit. I think it's very polite. But no, is there any other questions or comments from the board about the form?
Thank you for doing this.
No, thank you very much. It formalizes it better, and I think gives everybody a better clue of what we're looking for when we come up with these. And I love the breaking it out for building team now, since we're doing all this collaboration stuff versus individual teachers. So thank you both very much for working on this. It's
Well,
not
and thank
easy.
Courtney for doing all the hand editing, because I didn't even know where the editable version was, and then you just kept doing it, and I was like, thank you very much, because it's too complicated. But no, I guess, I mean, if it's not something that comes out till the end of the year, so we have some time, but we can move it on to an action item next meeting if y'all like. Okay, cool.
Thank you very much. We'll be voting on that next meeting. And next is, poor Joe, who's been sitting in the corner, he finally gets a chance. It's 6700 policy on nutrition, health, and physical education.
I am perfectly happy to let everybody else have their chance. So we're bringing forward some recommended changes to policy 6700, nutrition, health, and physical education. In my opinion, this is one of those policies that includes everything but the kitchen sink. There's too much stuff there. Although you could say, because it includes nutrition services, it includes the kitchen sink. Anyway, this becomes very, in my opinion, becomes very cumbersome, because it's a lot of things that overlap, but in many ways they're very separate. So these recommended changes are coming predominantly out of recently passed House Bill 1878. And to give you an example of, this is one of those things the legislature just cannot leave alone. There is a policy news update for this twice in 17, one in 18, one in 20, and one in 22. You know, and we all know how difficult it is to stay up to speed on policy. And Courtney luckily is there to keep us caught up, but it's difficult when every year the legislature's tweaking something. So thank you especially to Courtney for updating this and incorporating my awful penmanship and Bob's awful penmanship in order to make those changes. The changes predominantly revolve around recommendations about seat time, and the recommendation from WASDA very specifically said 20 minutes of seat time, and we didn't want that to be specified, because we know if that's specified, we're gonna have someone standing there with a stopwatch on us. So we made it a little bit more flexible for principals, because especially the elementary level, that cafeteria time is not just dictated by students, it's schedules and specialists and who can cover and duty-free lunch for teachers. It's a really complicated multivariate analysis equation that we need to make it fit. The same thing with recess. We are moving towards recess before lunch for everybody. I think we're doing that at all but one elementary school. But again, that's dependent upon specialist schedules and supervision, all those other things. So we didn't want to have it dictated. We want to say it's recommended and to be able to give the school the flexibility to make that work. And then there's some recommended language changes around physical activity, physical education. Any questions?
Will we be expecting procedure update too, or?
You will be expecting procedure update. This is procedure update we're working on.
I remembered it being a
All these sticky notes are the different input from different people. The procedure is probably gonna go from about a 5-page document to about an 18-page document because of all the recommendations they're recommending. So, yes, you will get that.
Yeah, it was like, when I saw the policy, I was like, oh darn, that procedures, and then I
Yes.
was like, oh yay,
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah. Yes, so the procedure is in the works. Courtney's probably gonna need about a month to get it all. It's in the works. We should have that to you shortly.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you. Any other comments, questions, concerns? Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Well, that does it for the items on our agenda. The only other items, of course, it would be the informational items, which include voucher audit, the community update, board schedule, administrative requirements report, board calendar, and our current enrollment, non-substantive policy updates, and professional learning communities, leadership meeting norms. Oh, there's some more. Also, the Pullman Promise, which of course is our priorities, goals, and success indicators, as well as the 2022-23 Pullman School District Family and Student Handbook as revised. So those are all informational items also attached to our agenda. We will adjourn into a recess, into an executive session for this evening. It should take about, Roberta says 5 minutes. I bet it's 10.
No, I think it's 5.
It's 5, all right. She swears it's gonna be 5. And following the executive session, I will reconvene our meeting and we will adjourn. No action will be taken. Thank you.